Sabrina and Brianna Stewart actually talking about the loss, what happened, things like that. People are loving what Sabrina said about Caitlin Clark and just showing love.
I'm so happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best.
The current champions, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, absolutely dominated the New York Liberty, and the aftermath was incredible for basketball lovers. After losing by 14 points, Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart strode to the post-game microphone as though they had just watched a Caitlin Clark highlight reel. However, rather than sidestepping questions or pointing fingers at the referees, they did something that astounded everyone watching. Their brutally honest assessment of Clark's dominance ended any remaining discussion about who is truly setting the standard in this league. Let's know below if they are truly respectful or if they are simply swallowing the L after a straight-up schooling.
The word undeniable exists for a reason, and it applies to Caitlin Clark.
She steps into that court, and in the first quarter, she made 3 threes in 38 seconds.
She is just absolutely undeniable.
Caitlin Clark was just different. Caitlin Clark is the system.
Caitlin Clark is
generational talent we've needed.
She is the system.
She's 4th in the league in MVP voting.
Caitlin Clark is an absolute all-star. She is the Michael Jordan of this. This is the girl that girls have been waiting for forever.
To set the scene, let's go back in time. The New York Liberty entered the game with their championship ring still in hand, undefeated, and on a high note. This was supposed to be a routine victory over an Indiana team that had just survived 5 games without their star player. The Fever were supposed to compete, not destroy. But as soon as Caitlin Clark took the court again, the game was over. She scored 32 points, disheveled 7 assists, and put together a personal mixtape of incredible moments that likely deserves its own ESPN 30 for 30.
And Cunningham is down behind the play, but they've got Caitlin Clark to fire away from 2 players with incredible up. Ball from Cunningham. Clark, another long 3. She's back!
However, rather than dismissing it or putting it behind platitudes, the actual twist appeared after the final buzzer. Instead of recoiling or avoiding the truth, Sabrina and Stewie offered Caitlin the flowers she so richly deserved.
We go on runs, they do as well. They're a great team. So I don't think it's defeating. I think obviously we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so obviously on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important.
Sabrina didn't hold back when asked how Clark looked following her injury break. She complimented Caitlin's range, poise under pressure, and ability to pull off clean looks against tight coverage. That's not fake humility or media training, but it didn't stop there. She even went so far as to say that she was glad to see Clark again, healthy not only for Indiana but also for Caitlin herself. That type of remark is appropriate for a legitimate peer, not someone you consider to be a media darling.
As Caitlin Clark put on a show that only she can in leading the team to a win over the New York Liberty. She hit the logo bombs, 3 of them in 38 seconds. Caitlin was able to hit down the court. Just gorgeous. I mean, come on.
However, Sabrina's admission that they gave Caitlin far too many open glances was the most painful. Let it sink in. Even when you believe you've closed the distance, Caitlin's range is an issue, according to Sabrina Ionescu, a walking 3-point clinic. Because she is familiar with what it takes to hit from the parking lot, you believe Sabrina when she says that Clark's jumper is automatic given even a little daylight.
She's the best basketball player in the world. She's the best basketball player that I have ever seen. She is the difference maker. She is the needle mover. She is the face of basketball right now.
Let's see what some people are saying right here. I am 100% Fever, but first team I have watched with class this year. Other than my Fever, great game, ladies. I love the sportsmanship. May you have a great season.
Brianna Stewart, a 2-time MVP and champion, could have easily shifted the blame or nitpicked officiating, but instead she chose to play it cool and not sugarcoat anything. Instead, Stewie acknowledged that they were outplayed, and not by chance, but by a team with a better strategy, better execution, and one extremely dangerous weapon.
Individually, I think just making better reads off the switches. They made it really difficult because there was just constantly somebody there, and trying to find an opening to get downhill or to find somebody else. And then collectively, like our defense, I think we should take pride in that a little bit more. And they had like 53 at half and finished with 102. So it doesn't really seem like we were guarding much.
Breanna Stewart was giving her a lot of space. She shoots it from the logo, she drills it, and right afterwards, I think all Breanna Stewart could do is kind of laugh about it. I actually loved that moment.
When one player can pull up from 35 feet and make it look like a layup, your defensive plan breaks down before it even sets up. The Liberty got pulled in all directions trying to stop Caitlin, and Indiana's shooters devoured them in the ensuing chaos. Those defensive breakdowns Stewart described weren't just lap collapses. Additionally, what really stood out about this post-game interaction was the complete absence of ego. The media has been attempting to incite a phony feud between Clark and the WNBA veterans, but Ionescu and Stewart chose to shut down the feud rather than fuel that machine. It wasn't because the basketball gods were feeling giving. Rather, it was because Clark attracted so much attention that her teammates were receiving practice-level shots. They put an end to the commotion, spoke the truth, and the numbers supported them.
I mean, it's not defeating. Basketball's a game of runs, in the same way like we go on runs, they do as well. They're a great team. So I don't think it's defeating. I think obviously we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy.
In an attempt to keep up with Indiana's offense, Stewart also acknowledged that they overworked their starters. This isn't just a coaching problem. It's psychological warfare, which is the Clark effect, where she changes the tempo, throws the defense off balance, and forces. Teams must give up their rhythm in order to remain competitive. This is what leaders do, what stars do, and what future MVPs do. Not even Sandy Brondello, the coach of Liberty, offered an explanation. When coaches at that level tipped their hats without hesitation, the game wasn't just a win. It was a message. There was no complaining about injuries or insults directed at the officials, just a simple admission that the Fever played better.
Yeah, look, obviously we had to rely on these two players here, and we didn't get to the rim. Early in the game we did. I think we had about 32 points in the paint in the first half, and we didn't get as many open ones as we did in the second half, and that's on the coaching staff. We've got to make it a little bit easier for them in that regard. But they're switching. They're very disruptive. They're very physical, and we've got to be a better job at executing that.
It was a carnage from a statistical perspective. A team that appeared lost without Caitlin suddenly looked like the Warriors reincarnated after Indiana scored 102 points, including 53 in the first half alone. But with her, and the fact that those 17 made threes wasn't down a chance. Rather, gravity caused everyone in her vicinity to become more hazardous versions of themselves.
The Indiana Fever before Caitlin and the Indiana Fever after Caitlin, she is like 1,000% the difference maker.
In her summary, Sabrina said that basketball was a game of runs, but it was obvious that this wasn't just a run. Rather, it was a deconstruction. Here's the truth. Sabrina and Stewart recognized continuous brilliance more than anything else, which is why Indiana didn't catch fire for a quarter. They performed from tip to buzzer. Beyond simply creating headlines, Caitlin Clark is rewriting stories, empowering colleagues, disarming egos, and making money. The hardest way to get respect is to defeat the greatest and make them acknowledge it.
She is the only player in the league so far averaging 20 points per game, 5 rebounds per game or more, 5 assists or more per game. Caitlin Clark is back in action.
This team won a massive game.
The Indiana Fever have come out and dominated.
When Stewart acknowledged that they were shaken by Caitlin Clark's poise and pace, you knew it wasn't just a bad night. It was a full-on reality check. Jennifer Stewart's post-game remarks struck a different note. You could tell this wasn't just another difficult loss media presser. The words were thoughtful, the tone was heavy, and the message was clear. This one stung the Liberty pride themselves on being the league's gold standard. The dynasty in the making the measuring stick. IT says volumes about the shockwave Clark just sent through the league when the reigning champions are openly doubting who they are after playing a team that most people had written off 5 games prior.
We got back into the game. We had that run when Stewie was guarding Caitlin Clark, but then they executed well. And we had so many breakdowns on defense, and they made shots. They really punished us on that end, making 17 threes from 35. It was just too wide open. So a little lack of communication. We had to obviously work these two. Probably overworked them tonight. But a lot of things that we can learn, and we, like I said before the game, we're nowhere near where we need.
Caitlin Clark doesn't walk the ball up like it's 1999. Instead, she takes a rebound or a lost ball and promptly turns it into a track meet. This is why the numbers don't lie, because they were ruthless in transition. The Fever generated 19 fast break chances, almost triple what they'd been averaging. Stewart talked about how difficult it was for them to enter their half-court sets when they were unable to get stops, and that wasn't simply a coaching problem. Caitlin was setting the rules. Ionescu acknowledged the same thing. Clark's ingenuity was evident when the Liberty's entire rhythm broke down when they were unable to execute their transition offense. She did more than just score. She stole New York's meticulously planned system and set it on fire.
Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu talked to the media alongside their head coach.
She has great range and her ability to get her shot off. I'm really happy to see her back out on the court. I'm happy she's back.
Caitlin Clark is a superstar. Globally,
Caitlin Clark is the needle mover.
She is the needle mover.
She is the franchise player.
And she was the MVP. She is the main.
And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, the Liberty actually received more whistles and trips to the line, but they were still unable to turn those into any kind of momentum. The free throw figures were like salt in the wound. Caitlin Clark was scouting the court like a sniper in a game, so Stewart even criticized them for not using rim assaults and for failing to reach the cup. Sniper's nest. When coaches with championship rings run out of options, you're dealing with more than just a great player. You're dealing with a force of nature, Caitlin. She pulls, you crowd her, and she drives that gravity, which shuts down New York's ability to penetrate because any defensive breakdown meant the Fever's offense would get another open look. The Liberty tried everything, including switching zoning and denying her the rock completely, but nothing worked.